Hi, it's Dwyer. GamblersAdvisory.com, a free site. BettingAngle.us, a free site. It's February 2nd, 2025. Let's talk about Benavidez Morell post-fight. But first, remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, David Benavidez delivered the win. He delivered the win. He just didn't deliver the stoppage that I wanted. So this greedy gambler got hit on the knuckles. I'm one of those people who is surprised and impressed that David Morell went the distance. Now, let's get wonkish here. I think this fight deserves getting wonkish. At first glance, the fight looked close, right? I know there are many people who want to see this fight again. X was filled with comments about people having really close scorecards. But understand, the fight is not close when you look at the body shots. Benavidez, a combination puncher, dominated the body shots. Right? He won this fight as he should have by a several round margin. Let me also say something, and it's going to sound ridiculous. Benavidez stands too tall. Isn't that the consensus? Right? He stands too tall. He's throwing combinations. He's throwing a lot of punches. This is not the guy waiting on you. He's throwing punches. Morell is supposed to be a big puncher. Many pundits here online believe that Morell had the bigger single punch than David Benavidez. Think about the risk involved for a second. So here is Benavidez in the pocket, standing upright against the big slugger. And Benavidez is taking a hand from up here, and he's actually throwing shots to the body. If you look at the film, you'll even notice that Benavidez at times winds up to throw the shot to the body. Right? Benavidez takes his hand, then he reaches back and throws it to hit the guy's body. Think about that. Could Benavidez be more wide open for a big shot from Morell if Morell knew what he was doing? Folks, I'm going to make the argument here that he didn't. Right? Let me just say this too. The guy who saw everything unfolding in real time was his trainer, Ronnie Shields. Ronnie Shields, I believe it's after the second round or so, is telling Morell in the corner that he needs to touch Benavidez's body. That he needs to come in and he needs to do it in a way where he's off at the side while he's hitting Benavidez in the body. Folks, even though Benavidez is in his 20s, even though these guys are almost the same age, they're about 2 years apart, it's more like 15 years in terms of boxing awareness. Right? Morell, decorated amateur. Understand, in the amateurs, they don't make it to the 6th, 7th rounds. Right? That's where a professional like a Morell, well, like a Benavidez, is going to pull away. Here, he pulled away earlier than that. Now, let me just say this. And I know guys have images, guys want to portray themselves as alpha. You know, in my regular life, I'll meet some people, right? I'll meet an opposing counsel who has some young associates with them. And the guy will try to, sound like he's alpha, sound like he's sure of himself, sound like he has no doubt that if we went before a judge, he's going to smoke me. And I'll look at the guy and I'll realize it's all a show. right? Understand, Morell, before this fight, he's looking tough. He's looking at David Benavidez, who's fought the vastly superior competition. Benavidez, who has knocked out many excellent fighters. And Morell would look tough. Morell called him RoboCop and stuff like that. At one point, Morell gets so flustered at a press conference that Morell does something 99% of boxers wouldn't do, wouldn't dream of. He threw his belt at David Benavidez. Right? I mean, understand how sacred the belt is. I get the feeling there are many fighters where if the house is on fire and they're outside the house with their kids and wife, they would run back into the house to grab the belt. Right? Here's David Morell, throwing the belt at Benavidez. Well, understand what happened here in the first 2 rounds. They downplay it on the pay-per-view. But David Morell is so amped up. This is such a unique moment for him that he throws an excessive number of punches. Excessive. And understand, even his corner realized that he wasn't going enough to the body. Folks, look at the punch count for Morell the first 2 rounds of the fight. Let me just tell you how overwhelmed Morell was. You had Benavidez. Now keep in mind, lay people know you don't want to be in the pocket with Benavidez. Right? You look at a slugger like this is a George Foreman type guy. This is a Diego Corrales type guy. Right? You understand, you know what, I don't want to stand in front of the guy. Understand, Morell is standing in front of Benavidez to the point where Benavidez starts doing Roberto Duran moves. He literally comes up to Durrell, who has his hands up, and he pulls down a hand that Morell has up for defense, and he throws a punch over that hand. He does that multiple times. You tell me, what's Morell doing while that's happening? Right? You're fighting a guy with a punch, with volume. He's a combination puncher. What is Morell doing in the pocket with David Benavidez? Not only that, the minute Benavidez touches your hand to pull it down, aren't you just swinging wildly at him? Saying there has to be an opening someplace. So I want us here to get nerdy. Because there is a type of fighter who can beat a David Morell. I think Larry Holmes. Now granted, I'm going to name greats, but I think Larry Holmes beats David Morell. Right? A guy who has an advanced back foot and who can throw power shots on the move. Right? Somewhere here online, there's a video of Ernie Shavers, great puncher, talking about the difference between Ali's jab and Larry Holmes's jab. Right? Ali's jab stung you. Larry Holmes's jab hurt you. Right? Let me just say this. There is a fight, and I have it in my favorites folder. Another great. Right? And I'm being unfair to a guy like David Morell, who would be lucky to have the career of Larry Holmes. He would be lucky to have the career of Floyd Mayweather. In my favorites folder right now, I have a great fight. It's Mayweather against Diego Corrales. Now, Diego Corrales is literally a smaller version of David Benavidez. Right? He was tall for the weight class. He had a lot of KOs. He was a guy who would follow you around, waiting to catch up with you, didn't have the fastest feet, was two-handed, could hurt you with either hand, spent the fight chopping down a tree, wasn't bashful, threw combinations. Combination slugger. Now understand the way Mayweather beat him, and I need for folks to understand. You're fighting this kind of combination puncher, right? You have to move to prevent a pocket from forming. And what do I mean by a pocket? Just think of a bomb, what we call ground zero. Right? David Benavidez, big guy, two-handed, throws a lot of punches. I don't want to be close to him. I need to have him chasing me the whole fight. I don't want a combination puncher starting a combination. So I'm going to be on the move, like Mayweather was. I need to have defense up. So if Benavidez starts to throw shots, I'm not getting hit. One of the stories of this fight, and it's a big story to me, is that Benavidez lands flush several times on David Morrell. And David Morell takes the shots. Right? So it seems. You know, I believe after a rugged fight like this, Morell's going to have to take time off. Right? Let me go one step further. If he doesn't take time off, understand, if you're a gambler, if Morell is in the ring with real competition, right? Callum Smith, Buatsi, Anthony Yard, Bivol, Beterbiev, right? If he's in the ring with real competition, even if you think he's going to win his next fight, you have to stay on the sidelines. I don't care how good everyone looks at press conferences. I don't care what was said. Right? People think I'm kidding when I talk about being in a car accident near Long Beach. Folks, I used to love Long Beach. I hardly go back to Long Beach. Right? Because the way life really works is you're in a fight like this and, you can recover, you can eat well, you can take care of yourself. I'm telling you, the next fight you're in, if you get buzzed like you got buzzed in this fight, you're going to start having flashbacks. The last person Morell should fight for his next fight is David Benavidez. Benavidez beat him up. Right? Understand, the secret to Mayweather is Mayweather had a sledgehammer left hook. Folks, it's a great punch. Right? The people who don't understand that Mayweather had a big punch just weren't paying attention. Mayweather had a huge left hook. I believe that's one of the reasons why Canelo has a huge left hook, because Canelo fought Mayweather, and Canelo's a guy who is downloading information. Right? The way to beat a David Benavidez is to be outside, not allow a pocket to form. Have a big punch and jump in periodically, throwing it. Right? Mayweather in that fight is sticking a jab out. He had to hit Canelo with something to keep him outside. Right? Morell couldn't even do that. Could not slow down Benavidez from coming forward. Right? RoboCop was able to come all the way up to his front door and open it repeatedly. Right? The guys with great back feet who have a tool they could use to keep you outside. Larry Holmes' jab. Mayweather's left hook. Right? Something they could be mobile with so they could hurt you while still denying you the pocket. Those are the guys who would have a shot on Benavidez. Let's name another group. You heard me mention the guy's name. I get the feeling Benavidez has studied his films. Go back to the first fight. Roberto Duran against Sugar Ray Leonard. Leonard, combination puncher. Fast. Mover. Right? Duran smothers him. Now to do this, you have to have a spectacular inside game. Right? You have to know how to be a short puncher. How to come in, and I know it sounds dirty, You need to know how to come in and hold a guy's hands. Right? In other words, the choice is to not let a pocket form. Right? That's the Mayweather technique against Corrales. That's the Joseph Parker technique against Andy Ruiz. Or to come in and smother the guy. Folks, Benavidez at times is reaching back to throw hooks. Right? You can smother him. So let me just point out another fight. You have an excellent champion. He's a short puncher. He has one of the biggest punches in the sport. He has proven it time and time again by stopping people like Marcus Brown, Anthony Yard, Callum Smith. So here was Arthur Beterbiev. And he's in the New York City area. And he's fighting Joe Smith from the New York City area. Joe Smith is the guy who knocked Hall of Famer Bernard Hopkins out of the ring. Joe Smith is front foot. Joe Smith is two-handed. Joe Smith is heavy-handed. Hey, there's no shame in the game here. Beterbiev's corner deserves gold medals for this. This was great corner work. Here's Beterbiev, Mr. Pocket. And what does he do? He comes out with lateral movement. By the way, he has more lateral movement than does David Morrell. So he comes out with lateral movement. Joe Smith is shocked. Of course, you know the rest. Beterbiev, while moving laterally, then destroys Joe Smith in Joe Smith's backyard in quick order. Right? Even sluggers know the value of lateral movement. Now let me tell you another problem Morell has here. Morell is not moving laterally. Then Morell has this thing he's doing where he allows the fighters to take turns. So David Morell is letting Benavidez come in the pocket and riddle him with shots. I think Morell thought that Benavidez, who went the distance, by the way, with Caleb Plant, that Benavidez was somehow going to throw himself out. Well, after Benavidez was alpha, then Morell would take his turn trying to be alpha. Right? So there was a trade-off. Folks, I'm telling you, Floyd Mayweather wouldn't do that. you know the Mayweather-Corrales fight, and Mayweather gets a stoppage. That's a left hook fest. Right? Mayweather isn't interested in giving Diego Corrales shots on him. He doesn't want a your turn, my turn dynamic. No. When you're fighting a big slugger, you need to understand that you can't put them in a position to ever land big shots. So Mayweather's moving around the ring consistently. Right? I'm guessing when Terence Crawford fights Canelo, Crawford's going to realize that Canelo is too blessed a puncher, and of course Canelo is 14 pounds heavier, to give Canelo any opportunity to land shots. This isn't a your turn, my turn type thing. It has to be a I'm going to be moving. I'm going to be mobile. And as this slugger guy tries to find me, then I'm going to hit him with shots. Right? That's the bottom line, folks. So here, Morell, too excited. This was too much, too soon. Right? I believe Benavidez saw that hot rod casualty fight and understood Morell doesn't know what to do in situations. Let me get past this guy now so no one can accuse me of ducking him. Think Mike McCallum against Julian Jackson in the 1980s. Right? Let me deal with this lion while it's a young lion, before this lion is old enough to think that he owns the forest. Right? So the fight I saw was a dominant performance. Right? You hit a guy in the body enough, the guy loses his ability to land power shots. I believe that's what happened here. Right? Morell gets thrown off his game early, has no clue how to stop the body shots. Isn't Martin Bakole against Jared Anderson, where he tees up uppercuts? So after Anderson thinks he's making headway, landing shots to Bakole's body, Bakole's able to do a quick sidestep move and hit him with brutal uppercuts. Right? Understand, Morell had no plan like that. He's getting hit in the body with shots because he has no idea how to stop the barrage. Right? Let's give Benavidez credit here. Now let's get scary. You know, you look at Benavidez and you look at 175 pounds. Now I want people to key on this. Benavidez is 28 years old. Right, folks? Good luck beating him from in the pocket. Right? I'll agree Beterbiev has a good chance of doing so. Right? Because Beterbiev throws short shots. Right? Beterbiev is a guy who isn't your turn, my turn. No, Beterbiev in a shootout is going to return fire. Right? And with a Benavidez, you have to let a Benavidez pay for throwing too much volume. In other words, you're fighting a guy who throws a lot of punches. You know this hand is going to leave this side of his face sooner or later. He can have his hands high, but you know he's going to be using this hand to throw a punch. So if you are hoping to hit him on this side, you should have that punch teed up. Well, just understand, at 175, Dmitry Bivol is the only guy at 175 right now among the top guys who can not allow a pocket to form. Right? He's the only guy who can be on his back foot, moving away from you, right? Making it hard for you to have a pocket. Bivol is 34 years old. Benavidez is 28. Right? It's a shootout, as we know it'll be a shootout, if he fights Beterbiev. Right? That might be a fight to be on, the side of the fight not going the distance. I was on that side here and I lost here, even though the guy I thought was going to dominate, dominated. Well, just understand the other guys at 175 pounds. Joshua Buatsi's 31, folks. 31. I would argue that Buatsi has taken more punishment than Benavidez. Right? That Aziz fight, punches were landed in that fight, folks. Right? You have Anthony Yarde. Anthony Yarde is 33. Let's think it through. Right? Yarde is a guy who, I know Yarde sees himself as a back foot guy and stuff like that. Yarde's back foot is not that great. He's really an in-the-pocket guy. You have Callum Smith. He's 34. Anyone noticing a trend here? Right? You have Benavidez at 28 against all these pocket-centric fighters. He's already beaten Grosdick. He's just beaten David Morell. Now, if Dmitry Bivol beats Beterbiev in the rematch, there's the possibility that they'll decide to have a rubber match. Right? Because the first fight was a unification fight. This fight is a fight for the undisputed title. these two guys might be like Tyson Fury and Usyk and not care by the time the third fight comes along whether they get stripped of a title or two. Right? They would rather fight their arch nemesis. That's if Bivol wins the rematch. If Bivol loses the rematch, understand Beterbiev is free to fight who he wants. Right? We'll know he's the baddest man at 175. Right? The other guys, do you see Callum Smith beating David Benavidez? Do you see Joshua Buatsi beating David Benavidez? Yard's interesting because Yard is a blessed puncher, but it's my understanding, based on the reports I've read, that Yard is having a problem making 175. Right? But just understand, this is a pocket-centric division. Right? This is not 140. It's not like I'm in there and I'm chasing Jack Catterall. Right? It's not like I'm in there and I'm chasing Devin Haney. Right? No. This is 175. Right? This is the division where the action finds you. You look up, here's Callum Smith. He's in your face. He's throwing shots. You look the other way, here's Arthur Beterbiev. He's in your face. Right? Here's Joshua Buatsi. He's not only in the pocket, he's stooping and he has his head low in the pocket. In this pocket-centric division, Benavidez might feast. Benavidez, because he sparred with Bivol, thinks he beats Bivol. That fight might not happen because Bivol, if he wins the rematch, really can't say no to a third fight against Beterbiev. Right? By then, the money's just raining in. Boxing fans aren't going to say, oh, you're fighting Beterbiev again? Why are you dodging David Benavidez? They're not going to say that. So let's just say things are lined up for Benavidez. Benavidez might even want to take a plane, cross the Atlantic, introduce himself to the people of Europe, fighting whoever wins that Callum Smith-Buatsi fight. Right? Let's just think it through. So those are my thoughts. Hey, a lot of credit to David Morell. If I'm him, if I'm his corner, I have him take off the next year. Folks, this was a brutal fight. He got hit with a lot of shots. Right? There is a price to be paid. If I'm Morell, I welcome the time off because I have things I need to do. One of them is to sit down with the film of Floyd Mayweather against Diego Corrales and make sure that I master some of those skills before I take on the other pocket-centric guys in the division. Right? Understand, you don't solve those problems. You're going to look up, here's Joshua Buatsi in the pocket. Right? And you're going to think to yourself, man, my game plan didn't work against Benavidez. I'm now in the deep end of the pool where the guys here at 175 don't care what I did at 168. They certainly don't care what I did in the amateurs. Right? The pre-fight talk, who cares about I mean, seriously, who cares about that? Right? Callum Smith has been in the ring with Canelo. He's been in the ring with Beterbiev. Right? You'll just be the latest guy talking smack. Right? Some of these guys have been in the ring with great fighters. Right? Grovesdick has been in the ring with Beterbiev. He's been in the ring with Benavidez. Right? He's 37, but he's a young 37. What could you possibly say to him pre-fight that's going to have him think that he's fighting some unbeatable guy? The answer is nothing. A lot of this pre-fight talk is really for fans like us. It's not for the other fighters. Right? So I thought Morell got dominated here. The key is to look at the body punches. Right? All I'm saying is, if Morell is confident enough, standing right in front of a heavy-handed guy to repeatedly throw punches to the body, then he has your sequence mastered. He doesn't feel that as he is reaching down to hit your body, that there's any possibility that you have anything else coming back. Let me say this too. For a guy standing as tall as Benavidez, right? Let's say Benavidez is slick with his defense, and he is. So he's going to your body with his, right hand, and he has the other hand draped across his face. Right, folks? What about his body? Couldn't Morell bounce to the side like Ronnie Shields wanted him to and land shots to the body? He probably worked on that in camp. But then, of course, the real fight happened. And he was too caught up in the moment. He couldn't do it. Right? His own body was getting riddled. He had a guy who certainly was not running from him. Right? David Benavidez knocks on your door. Right? You don't have to find Benavidez. He finds you. And in that fight, Morell, getting riddled to the body, couldn't land a lot of body shots on David Benavidez. Let me also say, too, Benavidez has sparred extensively with Gilberto Ramirez, who quietly is one of the best body punchers in the sport. I would love to see a tape of those sparring sessions. Right? Just to understand, one of the secrets to Benavidez is he's already sparred with some of the best in boxing. So I can sit here and I can say you need to be on your back foot to beat Benavidez. Right? Benavidez has sparred with Bivol. I can say, gee, you need to throw body shots to beat Benavidez. Benavidez has sparred with Gilberto Ramirez. Right? Benavidez showed you what he needed to beat David Morell. Let's just say I suspect Benavidez has other strategies he uses against other opponents. For those who don't know, Gilberto Ramirez right now is a unified champion at cruiser. Those are my thoughts. Let me hear yours. Please check out the Floyd Mayweather-Diego Corrales fight. Look at Morales. Morales is a lighter version of David Benavidez. Right? Heavy puncher. Understand, that fight was unbeaten against unbeaten. Right? I want people to see how Floyd is moving. I want people to see how Floyd, who's shooting a left jab, is then coming in with left hooks. The way that fight ended, by the way, you had Corrales' dad in his corner, and dad saw his unbeaten son getting beaten up and dropped to such an extent that he threw in the towel. Right? Diego Corrales, who viewed himself as alpha, was devastated. Those are my thoughts. Let me hear yours in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by.